Are you dissatisfied? Do you know somebody that's dissatisfied? If you've been following us, we've been talking about settlers and settling. And today we're going to focus on that dissatisfied settler. If you think it's relevant to you or somebody you know, stay tuned. We will be right back with more info on this. What's going on, Safehouse family?
What's up, Safehouse? We back, baby.
Oh, yeah. Another day and another episode of Safe House.
Yes, we are back from Memphis, Tennessee.
Down in the land of Maine.
Maine.
Maine ain't no they, them, we, she. It's just Maine. You
Just Maine. It's kind of funny when people refer to you that.
Yeah. What's going on, Maine?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start talking like that too. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, no, I ain't making fun of you, man.
Right.
I'm just down here with you. Yeah, right. Or the Memphis, yes.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, well, you know, y'all, we had a great time down there. Just big shout out to Apostle Ken, Tony, and Lady Carolyn, who just celebrated their wedding anniversary.
29 years.
29 years of marriage and ministry. So congratulations to them. Big thanks to our friends, the Murphys, Reverend Joe and Adrian.
We love you guys.
Love y'all. Thank you all for inviting us down to participate, and the whole Glory Covenant family for receiving us and treating us like family.
Yes.
We had a great time.
So kind.
They're always very kind, and it's just greatest thing.
They take good care of us.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do. So you all remember to like this video. If you think the content is good, share it out. If you think somebody can benefit from it, subscribe to the channel. Only a small percentage of you that watch our videos are subscribed. And remember to hit the bell for notifications so you know when we're publishing content and you can stay tuned in to us. And remember, we're available on YouTube as well as all the other podcasting platforms, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube Podcasts, along with just the YouTube channel. So you can listen and get Safe House any way you like it. Mm-hmm. You can do whatever you like. Uh-oh, no.
Oh, sorry. You know, it don't take much to get me started.
Right. Well, like we said in the opener, we're going to talk a little bit about this state of dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
Dissatisfied settlers, people that are settled and dissatisfied. Yeah. And speaking of that, while we were down in Memphis, any things came out that we learned or any experiences that you think, worthwhile sharing with the family?
We did a icebreaker. Uh-huh. And so, we talk a lot about red flags, yellow flags, and green flags. And of course, most people, if you have red flags, those are the people you definitely don't want to be in relationship with.
Right.
The yellow flags were, well, it's caution, like, okay, I know this about you, but I'm still going to give it a try. And of course, the green flags were like, oh, okay, this is good to go, this is great behavior. I think, to me, one of the things that was very interesting was that, so this is what the paper looked like. Yeah. Everybody had a paper, and all of their paper was full of all of these dots, all these polka dots.
We gave them dots to stick on and then we read a behavior out. We'd say things like, hey, the person is good with money. The person is poor with money. Person is aggressive,
Yeah, all those questions.
To put dots into the category, whether it was a red, green, or a yellow flag on that behavior when it comes to the relationship with that person.
And everybody thought that was great until we said...
We flipped it.
Well, that's really you too.
Yeah, what about you?
Right, what about you? Where would you, give yourself dots?
Right.
And then do you think the person who you're trying to build a relationship with, do you think that they'd want to be with you based on all of your dots?
Yeah. And even the green dots, people are like, well, the green stuff's good. Well, the opposite of the green stuff is the stuff you don't want, right? So
absolutely.
Just to even say that you want a specific characteristic, you're now filtering out the opposite of that characteristic.
Yeah.
So everything was a form of filter around the dots.
And I think, too, just you using the word filter, because I think that's how we even began our discussion in terms of how do people become disappointed?
Yeah.
Or disenchanted, with where they are. And so when you think about that, when we talk about the settler who is unhappy, how do they become unhappy? it's because something has missed the mark.
Yeah.
You know, some type of expectation, some type of hope that they had is now not taking place.
Yeah.
And so now they're either ready, they're just angry,
apathetic, despondent,
right.
ambivalent.
Some of them are ready to jump ship.
All of the above, right?
Yeah. And so, like I said, just to be able to have this discussion today about, like how do we get there? Because I think the scripture that we use, which is so powerful, was Proverbs 13:12. It says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. We like the last part.
Right.
The desire fulfilled is a tree of life because we see the growth.
But hope deferred making that heart sick.
Right.
Oof.
And that's really powerful because, like you said, when your heart is sick, then let's just be honest, you start to act out a little.
You do. We all act out. And it's funny in relationships, you can tell when you have missed expectations or when you reach that point, because now everything irritates you about this person, right? It's like, why are you breathing like that? I can hear every breath you taking, right? It's like, well, I've always breathed like that.
Like this forever.
Well, why do you look like that? Why does your face look like that? It's like the way I was born. Yeah, it's like my mom and daddy. What did the guy say, Mama? You can thank my mom and daddy for this face, right? It's like, I didn't control how my face looked, but now all of a sudden your tolerance gets really,
good.
really low because now you're so dissatisfied. And some of the responses from the audience was like, settling is giving up. It's letting go. It's negative. It's
nobody
just
said anything
the worst
positive.
possible. Yeah. And it's just, when you settle in, it's just the worst possible scenario of all things, the way folks perceived it, which was just really weird,
But what was so powerful about the fact that they had all the negative responses was because, once again, there was something that didn't happen that they expected to happen. Because one of the most powerful things to me was, like you said, when we talk about yellow flags.
Yeah.
Because with a red flag, I already know it's like warning Real Rogers. Maybe I shouldn't even be involved in that.
Right.
But the yellow, to me, had a greater level of expectation.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
this can go either way.
This can go either way.
Yeah.
And so you're always hopeful that it would go to the green side. And so if it stays yellow, you're almost kind of dissatisfied too, because you still have that hope that you never have the hope that it's going to go red. Yeah. But you always do have the hope that whatever this behavior is that I'm kind of questioning, I'm always hoping that it's going to change. You definitely don't want the yellow to stay the same.
Well, and the issue with the yellow, and this is kind of like implied, no one ever says this, yellows tend to be on timelines, right?
Oh, boy.
So if you got a yellow, I'm willing to deal with that yellow for some time.
Yeah.
But my expectation, sometimes unsaid, is that this yellow will turn to green, right?
Yeah.
Or I feel like you have time to clear that. But even still, that other person may not know that their behavior is yellow flag behavior that's expected to change.
Right.
Or that they're even capable of changing that behavior.
Yeah. I think you just hit on a good point, though. Like you said, the whole timeline piece, because, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having timelines, because timelines can be goals.
Yep.
So I don't think every relationship should have goals.
Yep.
But where I do think where people get disappointed and upset is when they feel like the goal isn't met. So like if we set a goal for, okay, we have a year.
Yeah.
And then a year goes by and it still hasn't happened. Now, one of those people are going to be upset about, okay, well, why didn't this happen?
Yeah.
What happened? What failed? And to me, it doesn't necessarily mean anything failed. It's just sometimes stuff just doesn't happen in our time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think too, that when you start to think like that, to me, that's a symptom of emotional unhealthiness.
Yeah,
when we're talking about the dissatisfied settler, it's like it shows up emotionally.
Yeah.
Because now, like I said, I'm fearful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe this thing is never going to happen.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Abraham and Sarah.
Yeah.
Like you said, there had to be some moments where they were dissatisfied.
Oh, yeah.
Well, obviously you saw when Sarah was like, hey, take my handmaiden.
Right.
We gonna have a baby.
Start to come up with alternative solutions. You know? Yeah.
But I think too, because I was really thinking about that. And so I go back to like the story where even when the angel first came and talked to Abraham and Sarah and said, you're going to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
He never said when.
Right.
You know, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
With that's a very quick way to become dissatisfied. Is when you don't know when.
Yeah. When you don't know the timeline. Right.
When you don't know the timeline.
Yeah.
And we're good at setting up timelines, but we still get just as frustrated when the timeline doesn't meet all of the markers, because God really does have a separate timeline from us.
Right. He has his own timeline.
Right. He does.
It's sometimes ours may line up. Sometimes it may not, right?
Yeah.
But the sovereignty of God says he sets and controls the timeline for whatever it may be, including how change manifests in other people.
Right.
You know?
So I'll have a transparent moment.
Yeah.
So when we were ready to have a baby.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, oh, it's going to happen like right away.
Yeah. And society makes you think that, okay, as soon as y'all kiss, you get pregnant, right? It's like, so you run around all
I did think that like when I was younger.
You run around in high school, as soon as you touch a boy's hand, it's like you're going to end up pregnant, right? So
it doesn't happen like that.
So you think, and then you also couple that with all the unexpected pregnancies that people happen. It's just like, man, this thing is like a ticking time bomb. It's like at any moment, just anything, you can just end up pregnant. And you find out when you actually try, it's a lot harder than it seems.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
But what it had done to me emotionally, because I just expected like, instantaneous.
Yeah.
Like, okay, God, we want to have a baby now.
Right.
So it's just going to happen like right away. I think it took us like 9 months to get pregnant. But within that 9 months, I was terrible. I mean, really. I mean, that's how I was dissatisfied.
Yeah.
And to your point, like you said, the unexpected pregnancies, there was a girl at my job. She wound up getting pregnant, wasn't married or anything like that. And I was just like so mean to her. I actually had to just go back and to apologize, mean. And I was jealous, because, and all of that was this emotional stuff going on the inside of me, because I felt like, whatever my expectation was, the expectation of it happening very quickly, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so I didn't necessarily take it out on you, but I definitely
took it out on her.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I did have to go back and apologize, to say, okay, I'm sorry, and then to tell her that I really was happy that she was having a baby. So I'm sharing that to say that, like you said, that when you start acting, that's a way to act out emotionally. When you're dissatisfied, when you feel like something is not happening very quickly.
Oh, let's unpack that, because you see it happen. It's not just wanting to have a baby. You see it happen with young ladies, and one of them gets married, right?
Oh yeah.
And then when you have a group of young lady friends and one gets married, everybody's putting pressure.
Wants to get married.
Then everybody's man in that group is going to have a hard time because now we got to get on the clock, right? So that happens. The other unsaid piece is, especially if you're in the church and you're quote unquote faithful and you're spiritual, you kind of get a little mad with God too, right? Because
let's talk about that part.
Because you get into, hey, God, I've been doing it right. I'm a holy person. I pray and I believe and I would do right. And here you got this person over here that's out here doing the fool, and they ending up with the prize.
And quite honestly, that's how I felt, because I'm like, man, God, she ain't even married. She barely know this guy. And it was a mess.
She kicking out babies, and you like, look.
A mess.
Yeah.
I was a mess. Yeah. Thank God for forgiveness and grace, because I was a total mess.
But once again, forgetting the whole adventure. Because once again, it's like, wait a minute, there was a lot of fun in the process of making a baby, right? but it's like, that's off the table. This is a job now, right? This is a task, right?
Yeah, and I think we forget about that too. Like you said, even when you're dating and you're moving along in the process, when you start dating and it becomes like a task because we're just moving from here to here to here to here, it's no longer fun to just date.
It's no longer fun.
Because everything is like, okay, we got to meet these marks. We got to meet these marks. And so you don't enjoy
the journey. You miss all of the experiences in the journey. You don't see any of the sights. You don't even have any memories because you were so focused on getting to that goal. It's kind of reminds me of when I used to ride motorcycles with my pastor. We had a little Christian motorcycle gang or whatever. And he said, something to me because I tend to be a type A, right? If we're going to the Black Hills or we're going to the Smoky Mountains, I'm thinking about getting to the Smoky Mountains. And his philosophy was like, no, I'm on vacation the minute I step outside my door, right? Before I mount my motorcycle to ride, I'm on vacation. So every moment between now, the highway, the funky gas stations you stop at, the bad food you eat, the one-horse towns you pass through, that's all part of the vacation. The experience, the destination is just one part of the experience, right? And that had to change my perspective because I was missing out on all the fellowship and the fun and the laughs and the goofy stuff because I'm looking at my watch like, oh man, we need to be on the road. We need to be, traveling at X speed if we're going to make it. It's like we need to beat the rain. We need to do this. We need to check out hotels, all the logistics, but completely missed the fellowship in the process,
Yeah. Like I said, it's almost like you said, we put ourselves on a time clock, especially when we're older.
Yeah.
We feel like, whether you're married or not, because sometimes, like I said, that dissatisfaction shows up in marriage when we're like, okay, we've raised the kids, we've done all these different things, and now we're just kind of looking at each other like, okay, what's next? And then when we don't know what's next, then once again, that dissatisfaction is like, man, I thought we would be further along. I thought we'd have more money. We're coming up on retirement age. And so once again, it still goes back to that whole fear piece because now I'm afraid. Like, okay, now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And so fear to me is so deadly.
It is
to the relationship in that space because it shows up in different ways. Like in the single person, it shows up in, like you said, when you're dating and you're like, okay, maybe I picked wrong. Maybe you aren't the one for me. We're not on the same page about things.
Right.
And,
are we equally yoked?
Right, exactly. We had that question there.
That's the Christian excuse, right? Everything is about, we throw that equally yoked thing out there.
Yeah, we had that discussion there. And that's just really powerful because once again, I think once you broke it down in terms of, like you said, the equally yoked and what a yoke is. Yeah. It's, like you said, it's something that you share. Yeah. And I don't think we talked enough about how Jesus says, even though there's an exchange, Jesus still gives you a yoke. Yeah. But it's just lighter. Yeah. Yeah. And so once again, you're not getting rid of the yoke. Yeah. You still have to be able to carry it. Yeah. You just, when you're in relationships with people, you just have to know how to carry it together.
Or as part of the exploration process, you're determining where this goal is together, right? You can't formulate that all by yourself because I think that's where dissatisfaction comes to too, right? We have this formulation of where we should be, how we should progress, what we're going to be doing, and where we think we're going to be at a certain stage in life without the other person.
That's true.
But in any, to use math as an example, the other person is an X factor. It's a variable. Right.
Wow.
It's a variable.
I never really thought about it like that, but you're absolutely right.
But we come up with this formula and then we introduce this variable, which is this other person, and we expect the plan to go exactly the same way. The thing about a variable is you can't completely account for it, right? You can only try to work back from it, right? And so when you introduce this variable, this person may have goals that complement or oppose you. They may have experience or no experience, or they may have trauma in the exact place that you're trying to go. Right. There's this whole X factor that you have to work through. And then you have to come to this place where we compromise on what the adventure is going to be together. Yeah.
To me, that's the intellectual part. Yeah. Because we actually have to be able to think through that part together. Yeah. Because like you said, if I'm the one who's formulating all of this, then I'm thinking it's going to work out perfectly. Yeah. Like you said, not really kind of taking into consideration, which is so powerful, the variable. Yeah. You know, and like you said, and then when the variable shows up, now I'm messed up intellectually.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't counting. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when you start saying stuff like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me, or you start taking like really strong stances on stuff, that's when you know that somewhere you're starting to get intellectually dissatisfied.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, to me, the intellectual is a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do you mean? That doesn't
Right.
make sense.
Right.
This absolutely makes sense.
Right.
This is definitely the way that we should be going.
Yeah. Yeah. You see people take stances like that, one, either out of hurt, or two, just out of some expectation.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
You know, hey, in our relationship, you know, you should make up the bed every night. Well, where did that come from, right? It's like, you know,
Andre wishes I would make the bed up every night.
But once again, even though I like a made bed every night, I don't expect you to make the bed, because I know when you got together, you didn't make the bed every night, right?
I can get in the bed without it being unmade.
If the bed is going to get made, I know if I want it made, I got to do it, right?
Well, sometimes I do make it up because I do know that you like to get in a made up bed.
Yeah. But still, once again, me saying, well, because you don't do that, you're now lesser of a person, or you have lesser value in this relationship. That's false, right?
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
because we also talked about that, the value.
Yeah,
when you start to devalue the person, then to me that's a really big sign that you're now becoming the dissatisfied settler. You know, you're not looking to build with this person anymore when you start when you get to that level of devaluing them. And you can devalue them, like you said, emotionally. I'm very apathetic towards them. You can start to devalue them, you know, intellectually, because now you're not even willing to listen to anything that they have to say. Because once again, you've tapped out too. You're like, you know what? Whatever you're getting ready to say, it's not even worth my while. And then even spiritually, you start to tap out, because now, which is kind of, you know, which I kind of see as a place of arrogance, you know, well, maybe I know God better. I hear from the Lord, and, you know, and then you start using those types of
spiritual
things.
manipulation.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's so funny. I've seen so many people, like in the beginning of the relationship, this is the one God designed for me. This is you know, they feel, and they get secretive. They don't want to tell nobody. They don't want to be held accountable. They don't want none of that, because God designed all this.
Yes.
But when stuff start going sideways, well, I don't know if God said, wait a minute, your voice with God was clear.
Right. I thought you knew what God said.
You know, I don't know if God meant for this. No, you tapped out.
Absolutely.
You know, no, you tapped out, you know, and something else changed. But either your voice was not clear in the beginning, or your voice is not clear now. But either way, the voice inside of your head that you think is God can't be trusted. All right, you need to loop in some other people. Now, I do want to make a clarification out here, or at least a qualifier. Those of you that are in relationships that are in absolute crisis, right? This is probably not for you, right? I would say for you, there's probably a professional intervention that needs to happen, right? So I don't want you to take this and say that Safehouse is saying, you know, this guy's beating me up, punching me in the face, or I'm in sort of a situation with a diagnosed someone with an NPD, narcissistic, or any of that stuff, right? That somehow or other these sort of things will sort of be a cure-all. We're not saying that at all. Those things require professional intervention from a licensed professional counselor, right? What we are saying as your coaches and as your mentors, that there are cases when you get into relationships where you haven't examined your own expectations, and then you lay those expectations on people, and you end up in a relational ditch because of what's not been discussed and the expectations that were not shared, right? So it's more like a warning sign of a potential landmine. Or if you're in a relationship and you're finding that you're in these constant places of these nagging little conflicts, maybe it's time to step back, go to separate corners, and start to look at your own expectations about dissatisfaction.
Yeah, because I was going to say that too. Like, how do you reset? And I think, like you said, one of the most powerful ways to reset is, like you said, to go get therapy, because like you said, every relationship is different, you know, and different issues will show up. Like, kind of like what we said, like I said, I could be perfectly healthy today, you know, which is my green flag, but then that green flag can turn red because something mental happens to me, you know, like I said, it wasn't showing up at first, but now, dementia.
Yeah.
Now that's different. And so even though I may have that, it's walking that journey with somebody is extremely difficult to do.
Yeah, being a caregiver is extreme difficult, and that definitely requires professional support.
You need professional support because once again, how we start out may not be how we finish.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we always want to make sure that we finish strong. And the other thing I was going to say about the reset too is, like you said, sometimes we do have to go back, like you said, to our separate corners and look at ourselves.
Yeah.
Because when we start to get dissatisfied, we're normally looking at the other person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we don't take the time to say, okay, or at least to try to find the root of why am I really unsatisfied in this space?
Yeah.
Because the thing I find about the dissatisfied settler is they're not dissatisfied with everything.
They're not.
They're not.
Yeah, generally,
Right. It's usually like one thing, but once again, that one thing could uproot everything.
Yeah.
If, like you said, if we're not careful and if we're not paying attention, because the more dissatisfied that I am about this one issue or two, I don't want to build anymore.
Right. Or I don't want to take any adventure. I don't want to.
I don't want to
explore anymore. I'm not even open to learning anymore. Because,
absolutely.
Many times the things that we're dissatisfied about, I've seen this, right? They're characteristics that were already there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
the yellow flags.
Yeah. They were the yellow flags. Right. They weren't even yellow flags. They were no flags because you ignored them.
Yeah.
Right.
We should have put that on there.
Yeah.
The stuff you just completely ignored.
You just completely ignored, right? You set it aside, ignored it. You either figured if it did come up, you thought it would go away, or you just didn't pay attention because you was so in love, or let's be real, some sex didn't happen, right? Right. That clouds all kinds of judgment. That does something to you every time I say that way, right? It didn't happen, right? And that just completely blinds you, right? You have on rose-colored glasses, right? And you don't see that this person has 2 or 3 personalities because the one you like sleeping with is so good.
You don't even stay in the relationship longer because it's good.
Yeah. And so you look up and now 30 years later, and it's like, God is showing me that this person, he was showing you way back when you was ignoring it, but you chose to ignore it. And now you're in this relationship and there's ties and all kinds of things. And you're trying to figure out how to unwind something that shouldn't have been wound up in the first place. Right. So,
but now you're there.
Now you're there.
But I think too, the good side of that is it's like we're there and it's like, okay, just because, instead of even if I had to unwind it, how can I unwind it so we can begin again?
Yeah. Well, so first let's just go spiritual, right?
Yeah.
So if you're watching this and you're of the Christian faith, the difference between us as Christians and sort of the secular interpretation, because the secular interpretation is very clear. Everybody goes their separate ways, right?
Irreconcilable
differences. First thing we do is separate. We write some paper and we go our separate ways, even though there is still, despite the fact that there may be a easy legal way to resolve that, the emotional, spiritual damage that persists from that the consequences will persist for a long time after the ink is dry on the paper, right?
Yeah.
So just recognize that things aren't resolved with the divorce party, right? But those of us that are of the faith, the one thing that we have is hope, right? Can these dry bones live again? And so if we reset ourselves to a place of hope to say, you know what, this is the person that God designed me to be with. I may have had a few rose-colored glasses on. I may have interpreted some things, or they may legitimately be crazy. One, don't rule out professional help.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rule out help from your clergy and people in your circle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Credible people that can help walk that process with you. And most of all, this is when you really have to get your prayer and spiritual life together, right? Because, the only way to retreat is to get someplace and start to hear the voice of God so that he can build up the patience that it takes to endure. Because like that sheet over there, The red flags that you see, that sheet over there has all the red flags that say you want to walk away right now.
Mm-hmm.
When we start to look at it from a Christian standpoint, and this is what made everybody go, there's a sheet of red flags that God has about each one of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of behavioral red flags. There are things that we even commit to doing today that even as Christians trying to live right are against God's design for our life.
Mm-hmm.
And they're against it when we decide to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But God still doesn't abandon us.
Yeah.
Even though we do that, there's always a way to work back. So if you're not in the place of hope, the first thing you should do is to try to get yourself into a place of hope before we start doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if I don't have hope anymore, that's a different problem.
I was going to say that too. Like, even, I mean, when we talk about unwinding stuff, sometimes you do have to unwind a relationship.
Yeah.
People get divorced.
Yeah.
But what I love about that too is what you said about hope, that I still don't have to resign myself to be alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That there's still an opportunity for me to do this again.
Yeah.
And so even while I'm thinking about that, like I said, I do have to think about it emotionally, intellectually, and definitely spiritually.
Yeah. As
I'm now getting ready to go on this adventure again. Like you said, I'm not afraid to explore again.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like you said, when a divorce happens, we feel like, okay, that's just it. I'm done. When really it's like, well, yeah, you're done, but are you really done?
Right.
I always feel like, in the dissatisfaction from the last relationship, don't let that spill over into you being completely happy in the next relationship.
What did you learn?
Yeah, what did you learn?
Yeah.
You know? And so that to me is, like you said, the essence of the dissatisfied settler. Yeah. Because I think the only way to become satisfied again is to really, like you said, to say, what did I learn? And then you do have to you got to do a lot of introspection. So now you can figure out, like, okay, how do I get back to this healthy space of wanting to build? Because my heart will stay sick. The Bible is true about that. Yeah. And I don't want my heart to stay sick because that's where all of the issues flow from. And so I have to figure out a way to heal my heart so that it can be fruitful, because God will give us the desires of our heart. Yeah. But we also have to remember too, and this is the last thing, that it's always going to be in His timing. And it's always going to go along with His expectations. Yes. See, I think sometimes we forget that too, that God has expectations too. And like you said, from the Christian point of view, it's always going to work that way. And so we just have to be able to align ourselves with that. And because I think that helps us to not to be so disappointed when it doesn't work out the way that we thought it should go.
Well, what say you, Safehouse? Tell us about dissatisfaction. Are you feeling dissatisfied right now? Have you experienced dissatisfaction? Are you learning how to settle? Are you like Paul? Are you learning in whatever situation you're in, you have chosen to be content? Or maybe you're fighting through some dissatisfaction and just don't know what to do. Give us a comment below. Tell us how this episode may have informed your situation. And remember, you could reach out to us on any of the social media platforms. We'll leave our campsite in the bio where you can get in touch with us via email. Definitely, you could reach out to us in the comments or through a direct message if you want to discuss this. And, this is an intriguing topic.
Yeah, very intriguing. I learned a lot too.
Yeah, I did. I learned a lot, and even interacting with folks, you understand how much of an issue this is for people.
Absolutely.
So remember, we got a merch store. Check us out. Get some Safehouse merch. I got the Safehouse family.
Yes, you do.
Item on today. But we got t-shirts, hoodies, cups, mugs, hats. All kinds of things out there. So show your support for the Safehouse family by getting your Safehouse merch. All right. Well, that's it for this episode.
That's it. I mean, man, time flies.
Time flies.
Yes, it does.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Thank you all for sharing your settling status with us. And like we end every episode, we will end this one with a peace.